Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a come garden with me garden tour, like summer garden tour. But I'm starting this video quite rushed because it's finally stopped raining. It's been raining for days and days, like basically all of July, and the grass has gone a bit crazy. And this is the first sort of real day of heat that we've had to be able to cut the grass. So Scott's going to cut the grass, but first we have to go on a frog rescue mission. Because we have the pond and we do a lot of wildlife friendly gardening, we basically just have hundreds and hundreds of frogs in the grass. So before we cut the grass we need to rescue them. So I think I can easily get 30 frogs, but I'll set up a video and see how many I get. Okay, so we've been doing this for about half an hour. We've got a good 25 to 30. Are they frogs or toads? Anyways, there's quite a lot in there. Sorry if this creeps anybody out. And I know there's probably another however many in the grass still, but at least we've done our bit to rescue these guys. I've just chopped some of the grass to put on top of them so that they feel safe. And a bit more protected from the sun. We're going to leave them in here in this bucket while Scott's cutting the grass. See the lawn. So today's video is going to be an updated summer garden tour, and I'm going to show you through what the garden is looking like in August, bearing in mind I had a baby, so it's been quite neglected, but I've got it's given me lots of time to reflect, and I've got lots of plans about what needs to be moved in the autumn, so I'll take you through all of that, and I hope you enjoy today's video. Okay, so hopefully the camera is going to be okay. It's so sunny. I mean, look at the clouds. One of those perfectly lovely blue sky days of lovely white fluffy clouds. but it's very bright, so hopefully the camera's going to adjust okay. So this is our patio area. We've got a lilac tree here. We cut it right back, so sort of this bit is the sort of the new growth, and this top bit is the old growth. So we're probably going to chop this down in the autumn to let the new stuff grow and hopefully flower. And then, yeah, show you my veg trugs. The dog's just having a nice chillax in the shade just there with his, if you can see that little blue thing, his little peanut butter licky mat. He's suffering a bit in the heat today, bless him. But he's a good boy, he stays in the shade. So that's fine. So, in this veg trug I planted chamomile seeds. And they have not done very well. I mean, they have got a few flowers, but it's not been the lovely, and it smells amazing when you rub against it, but it's not been the success I really hoped it would be. So I think I'll try again. Might do cucumbers in this veg trug next year, because my mother-in-law grows her cucumbers in one very successfully, so that'll be nice. But it does smell nice, and I'm going to try and harvest some of these flowers for drying. But yeah, it smells delicious. We've got the orange tree here. It's put on a lot of new growth this year, which is really good. So it's really just like doubled in size. So I'm hoping next year that'll produce blossom and some tiny little oranges. Sorry if you can hear the jets in the background. We have I guess army practice airspace above our house. So yeah, a bit annoying really. Anyways, moving on. This was an allium which is now gone over. So I'm waiting for their seeds to ripen, but they looked really, really nice. So I'm hoping that they'll self-seed themselves around the garden this year. But the real star of the show in this pot is this summer snowdrift. So I'll put a link to where you can find this online, but it's been like this for months, probably since June. It's really bushed out. When I first bought it, it was this tiniest little plant. It hasn't stopped flowering, and yeah, I'm probably going to buy a few more of these next year, because in different colours, because it's really lovely, and yeah, doesn't stop flowering. So really good plant there. Moving on, we have our little pot section, and we have our strawberries. If you watched a few of my other videos, you would have seen me picking strawberries all summer, and we have had an absolute glut from just these 2 pots, which is fantastic. And there's absolutely loads more, so you can see a few new ones developing, and there's a red one there, there's more here. You know, we've had an absolute glut. I think Scott might have picked all the right ones for today, but yeah. While I'm here in the shade, I thought I would just say what I do with our 2 pots of strawberries to help with our cropping, in case anybody else wants some tips on how to grow strawberries. Ours have just been absolutely fantastic this year. So what I do is any runners that I find towards the beginning of the season, I cut them off. We don't want our strawberries putting effort into making babies. We want them to be putting effort into fruits. So I cut all the runners off throughout the season, and I sort of let them start producing runners maybe in end of August, September time. So all the energy for the plants is going into making the fruits. It's not going into making babies. And we give them a weekly feed of liquid seaweed. And I put new compost into the pots every winter to protect. So once all the leaves have started to die back, I sort of cut all the dead leaves off, and any leaves that have been eaten and have lots of holes in them. I don't cut all of the leaves off because you want some of the leaves there to help the plant photosynthesize, but also it protects the crowns, like by the soil, from any snow or frost over the winter if they've got just a few leaves on top of them. So I do cut back most of the leaves, but then I keep a few, and I top each pot up with fresh compost every year to put nutrients back into the compost, and then I cover them with straw over winter as well to protect them from frosts and snow. And then throughout the summer I actually cut leaves off and take leaves back. This helps, you know, in pots it really helps with air circulation around the fruits. It helps get light into the plants that are in the middle of the pots, and again, it's one of those ones I don't want the plant to be putting too much energy into making new leaves. I want it to be putting energy into making fruits. So cutting the runners off, clearing away excess leaves, and a weekly feed, they are my top 3 tips on having really great strawberry producing strawberry plants. And also, while I'm out here, I thought this is a smoothie that we've made earlier with all the strawberries that we've actually had so many we had to freeze some. So there we go, we have enough strawberries to eat, to freeze, and to make lovely delicious smoothies. So carrying on with the tour, I have a Japanese Acer here. This is just an Acer palmatum, you know, like a standard one you get from the garden centre. It's getting a little bit sun scorched here. You can see the leaves are starting to curl. Oh, slightly. So yeah, it's just getting a bit hot for it, so I might have to move that. But that's done really well this year. It's put on lots of new growth, had nice colour. So yeah, lovely. And the first project I have for this autumn are my 2 blue pots. These are supposed to be oxeye daisies, which again have just not done anything this year at all, and basically they've outgrown the pots. So project number 1 is to empty both pots, try and get the oxeye daisies into one of the borders, and rethink what I'm going to do with these 2 pots. At the minute I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, so I'll have to stay tuned, but definitely need to rethink these. And the only other thing on the patio is this, oh, a bit bright, which is my pom-pom dahlia. Ah, it's so beautiful. Look how perfect that is. I absolutely love dahlias. This is the pom-pom dahlia I had last year, which I dug the tuber up, stored it over winter, replanted it. You can kind of see the stump of the old stems from last year there. And we've had absolutely masses of flowers off this. Not as many as last year though, and that's because I put it in the pot to start its growth for this year, and then I had a baby and basically forgot or didn't have time or the energy to put it in the ground. So it's sort of had a bit of stunted growth this year, bless it. And next year I'll put it in the ground and hopefully we'll get loads and loads and loads of beautiful pom-pom dahlias. But yeah, this just produces masses of flowers. The stems are always really long, great for cutting, 100% recommend pom-pom dahlias for cut flowers if you want cut flowers in your garden. And then, well, I'll try and get a good angle of the grapevine over the barbecue area. Is it too bright and sunny? Yeah. I'll have to try and find a better angle. But to the side of the grapevine and the barbecue area, we have my 2 roses. These need moving into the borders, but we've had absolutely loads of roses off this shrub rose, and if you follow this very straight stem upwards, you can see it's producing more roses again. So that's great. I've had no problems with black spot this year, and you can see where I've cut the where the it flowered from here. Cut it right back to a leaf node, and out of the leaf node we've had new growth. So roses are really, really good for this. Sort of cutting it right back and then regrowing again. And yeah, really good rose. It's been taken over again by the grapevine this year. So I mean, in June this is a fantastic place because it gets the sort of spring sunlight, sort of the first thing that flowers. I'll put a picture sort of here maybe of what it looked like in June, because we took some photos with Olivia when she was first born here, and it looked really, really lovely. But as the grapevine grows, it sort of smothers it. So yeah, might need to rethink this. I'm not sure if I should rethink the rose or the grapevine just yet, but it's a bit of a tangled mess. And you can see here another rose. This is Malvern Hills by David Austin Roses. Is it going to focus? Ooh, see if it can focus. This is such a beautiful climbing rose. But again, with the baby, I've just not been able to take it out of its original pot. So the poor thing's not had the best year. You can see some of the yellowing leaves, but it is growing. This is all new growth here. You can see it's sort of got this red tinge to it. It's got new buds, new flowers, and it's growing quite a lot here when it's getting the sun. So number one priority for autumn is to cut this back and plant it in the border, ready for next year, so it can romp away over the fences. But it is really, really beautiful, very delicate, and yeah, it doesn't mind like having its roots in the shade and its head in the sun, which is fantastic when you have a fence which sort of is shady at the bottom and sunny at the top, which we do. So this is the sort of utility area of the garden. So we've got the patio, main patio area here, and it sweeps round, and then we have this sort of the garage where we keep the bin. And my idea sort of for the second half of the year and next year is to get some big troughs here to connect to this downpipe, and basically collect all the water, so we can have a big trough here, and yeah, just harvest rainwater, because we don't, considering it's supposed to be a wildlife friendly garden, the fact that we don't collect water really, really bugs me. So that's sort of another sort of number one big priority, is to start collecting rainwater next year. I mean, we've had a very rainy summer this year, so it's not been too bad. I haven't actually done that much watering, but you know, it is getting hotter, that's the reality, and we need to start collecting water. So that's the plan. I'm going to have the water collecting here, and then probably, well, just this is where the bin is, and maybe put some cold frames here but this is where I sort of store plants that need to be composted, or yeah, it's just sort of a utility area. And it's a shed, but it's nice to have this sort of area. That's like all the bits that you want to kind of hide if you have a nice garden, but you still need a nice little peek at the garden through this sort of gap here. So yeah, then we come down this passage. We have the guard dog, obviously. Again, I have started to clear this, but eventually what I would like is to have all of this cleared and this be a lovely red brick path. So because you can see where the dog runs up and down, so that's probably a job for in 2 or 3 years time. That's the reality. But then this is the barbecue area. So we had a party here in the beginning of June, and it was amazing, and we put these lanterns up, paper lanterns, but because it's so sheltered I've just left them up with the fairy lights. You won't be able to see them in this light, but it makes it look so lovely, so just keeping them up all summer. And the fairy lights, not that you can see them now, but I'll later on in the video I will show you what it looks like all lit up, because it looks absolutely spectacular. Not that we've been able to enjoy the garden much this year, but yeah, it's looking. We're so lucky to have this. I mean, it sold the house to us, this area. But it's normally where I keep all my things that I'm doing in the garden now. So I've got my string, my gloves, pots, and secateurs. So yeah. So moving on to this little area, which needs again a rethink. The ferns, they are absolutely gorgeous, but they are too big for this area. So they've crowded out the heucheras. So that's Heuchera Forever Purple, sort of not really doing much. And in the corner there's a Heuchera Little Cutie. So again in the autumn, when this is all dyed, well, cut back, I'm going to move both the heucheras. And as you can see, this fern here should look like this, you know, like a real Jurassic Park type fern. But as you can see, these fronds haven't developed properly, and I think it's because it doesn't have enough space or sunlight from this fern here. So I think I'm going to move the Jurassic Park fern because I like the height of this other fern. And I don't want to move this fern into the border over here because I have very similar ferns. So yeah, I think I'm going to move the big one, this big one, in the autumn. But yeah, it's just getting the ferns sort of crowding each other out, and now they're stunting each other's growth, which is never good. And then we'll move on to the actual flower borders, which this is the wildflower border. It is looking so sorry for itself. It needs a complete rethink. And to be fair, when I first dug this border just to see if the gap between the border and the wall was going to feel too narrow, so I just chucked a load of wildflower seeds down, just so we could see what it felt like with plants. And yeah, it's been very successful. We're going to keep the border here, but I mean, it's just got a mixture of plants I want to keep, plants that are self-seeded. There is some sort of rhythm and rhyme to it, but yeah, it just needs a complete rethink. So, for example, this, I would call it lamb's ear plant because it's really, really lovely and soft. It's being crowded out by this, I think it's an achillea, which is flowered this year for the first time. So I want to keep the Achillea here because it's doing well, but then move this lamb's ear across to here. The foxgloves, they did so well this year. They look beautiful, but they've all dried out now, so they need to be cut down. But you can see we've got some new growth at the base here, and we've got a whole new plant here. So we'll get some lovely we'll get more foxgloves next year, which is fantastic. But and there's another one here. That's a foxglove as well. But they need a lot of space really, so I need to sort it out. And then the grasses, I moved this grass, don't know if you can see there, but these two grasses, while they're doing well, I don't feel like you can really get the impact and effect of them. So I want to divide them so I have more, but also and move them a little bit, it's like a bit more, so you know they make more of an impact through the border. And what else is new? Oh yes, so I planted a geranium here for ground cover, hoping that's going to clump up nicely. There is also another geranium under here, but this cornflower's got too big, it's flopped over and it's covering up. So I need to cut that all back, so this geranium can clump up nicely again for some more ground cover. I've got a new plant. This is a scabious, which is adored by the bees, absolutely adored, and it's so lovely, but it really needs a good deadhead. So that's the when the plant's finished flowering, it turns into these sort of seed heads, and yeah, they just need to, if you chop them off, new buds will appear like this. So it's good repeat flowering. I will leave some of the heads on to produce seeds so that they can spread throughout the garden. And then this is a dahlia. This is a dahlia called Akita, because we have an Akita, if you can see him over there. But it's not produced any flowers yet, so I'm hoping it will next year. So that's sort of doing nicely. This sort of makeshift wall here is to keep this plant up, which I really, really like. And it's called larkspur. And I didn't realise it was repeat flowering, but this is where the flower's gone over and it's created seeds, so they're quite pointed. But if you cut that off, you'll produce round new shoots of rounded growth, and they are the new flowers. So it is actually a repeat flower, which I thought I didn't realise it was. So yeah, I've been trying to keep on top of deadheading that to keep the flowers going, because it's quite nice, but needs a better support really. Bless it. I have another dahlia. Oh, shadow. Another dahlia here. This is a cactus dahlia which I planted last year, left in the ground to see if it would survive, because I wanted to do an experiment. I wanted to lift one tuber, which was the pom-pom dahlia over there, and leave one in the ground to see if they would, which one would survive. They both did. So although the one that I lifted has grown better, so I think I will lift this one this year and move it though, because it gets crowded out. This is a verbena. So this one's been destroyed quite a bit by other plants crowding it out. Oh look, there's a bee on the scabious. Oh, it's moved. Can you see that bee? cute. So yeah, it was crowded out by a lot of other plants, which is a shame, but it's making quite a good recovery. So I'm just going to try and next year just make sure it has enough space, and cut it right back to the ground this year, because if I go over here, well, it's a very light and airy plant, but this is my other verbena, but you can see it's almost too gangly. It's sort of gone everywhere, and because it's so long, the flowers keep flopping over, and every time the dog walks past, he snaps branches. So I don't think I cut this back hard enough in the winter. So this year I'm going to cut this back really hard, so when it regrows, it's not as long, and it has a bit more chance of keeping its stems intact. But as you can see, I mean, it's just a mess, this border this year. I really need to put some TLC into it. The wildflowers, they looked spectacular, but they really just suffocated everything else. And then I've not really had time and effort I've not had time to put enough effort into this border this year. So it is looking very sorry for itself. But it's got enough plants in it to keep the birds and the bees and the butterflies very happy, so at least there's that. Ruben's got an appointment to make, apparently. And then this is my tropical border. Now this is more of a sort of an annual border. There's a lot of annuals in here. This is a much more of a perennial border, and it has much less flowers, but this one I am quite happy with the plant choice, but I do need to do a lot of moving of plants in the winter, because as things have got bigger, they have I've just shown me that they're in the wrong place. For example, I think this daylily needs to move right back into that gap in the back. This here is a canna lily, which I thought had not survived the winter, but it has. I think this needs to move into this gap here. The Acer, this is the Acer I got at Chelsea Flower Show from a specialist grower called Black Lace, and it's done very well this year, but I think it needs to have a little repot. I've got my hydrangea here, which is doing really nice. I really like this. This is candlelight, I believe, and I need to pick some of these flower heads for drying, to be honest. But this is Little Lime. I really like this hydrangea for how it sort of ages. So it starts off nice and green and then goes pinky, which I think is really lovely. But as you can see, it's very, very small, much more, and it has it's not supposed to be this, it's supposed to be small but not this small. I think it has a bit of stunted growth. I'm not sure it's getting enough sunlight, so I think it needs to be moved into the bit more of sunlight. But also it's been crowded out by this fern. Now this is a tree fern, this stump here. I'm not sure this did survive the winter. So I think I need to move this fern back here next to it to kind of hide it. But I'm not going to dig it up, I'm going to leave it and see if it does survive. It comes back. But the other plant here, I really like this combination of the hydrangea, which is nice and frothy and flowery, the sort of featheriness of the ferns, and then this tetrapanics, Fatsia japonica, which has these really amazing, like claw-like leaves. And this is grown I mean, from last year to this year, it's grown about 3 times the size, and I'm really pleased with that. I wanted that to be a nice feature plant at the back of the border, and I really like the contrast between the leaf shape and then the hydrangea. I think that's really lovely. So that's definitely staying there. Sorry, a fighter jet just flew really close to the house. It was very loud. But yeah, the Fatsia japonica is staying there. This hydrangea is staying here, but this fern needs to move back slightly. But overall, quite pleased with this border. We've got the hostas there. We have bearded iris just here. That was, we only got one flower stem this year, but it was absolutely spectacular when it did flower. But I'm going to move this daylily so it's not crowding the iris as much. Again, we have another dahlia here. This is the same pom-pom dahlia as over there. This has grown unexpectedly. You could class it as a weed, I suppose. When I was digging up the tuber, some of it broke off, and I thought, oh, I'll just leave it in the ground. If it grows, it grows. If it dies, it dies. I wasn't expecting it to do anything. The tuber was this big, but it's grown into quite a nice plant actually. So I will be digging this up this year, storing tuber over winter. So I have another plant for free. Dahlias are fantastic for sort of giving you plants for free. So yeah, my collection is starting to become quite big. But also from this side you can see another fern here which needs to be moved. This is in too much sunlight. So the other fern is over there in much more shade and is much bigger. So this fern needs to be moved as well. And while I haven't had much time to actually do any gardening this year, and the garden I feel is in a very sorry state, it has given me a lot of time to look, to reflect and to make plans for the autumn, because now I've actually had a chance to let things be rather than tinker with them, and it's really shown me where I've put things wrong and where things are not doing very well, where things need to be moved, where things need to be changed, and that's quite refreshing. I feel having some time, sort of stepping back, letting the garden sort of do its own thing this year has really shown me more than I think I would have seen otherwise, which is it's great, because it means now I have so many plans for autumn on how to improve the garden for next year, and that's really exciting, because autumn and winter can be, everything's dying off, and it doesn't necessarily isn't necessarily an exciting time of year. But now I have so many plans and plants I need to move in the autumn and the winter. I'm going to have loads of jobs on my hands, so it's nice to sort of have that in the back of my mind, and hopefully next year the garden will be like even better. But that's kind of why I like gardening. It's a constant learning process. You're constantly doing new things, learning new things, improving, making mistakes, and that's great. That's part of it. It's part of it. It's going, oh, I've planted that there and that's done terribly and I need to move it. That's like part of the fun almost. So yeah, loads and loads of plans for moving things in the autumn. The to-do list is getting quite long now, so but it's all exciting, and as Olivia gets older, especially next year, hopefully I'll have a bit more time to garden, and put more plants in, and just continue improving. But I move on with the tour because I can tell this video is really long already, and there's only a few more things to show you. The one thing that we are so proud of is our banana. It has done so well this year. I thought it had died in the winter, but look at that, look at those leaves. I mean, they're so big it doesn't even fit into the camera. And you can see here, this is how it grows. It sort of grows out, all the leaves sort of grow out from the central core, and the leaf comes up from the middle and it's all curled up like a big cigarette, and then it sort of unfurls itself out into a huge big banana leaf. But it's just, I'm so proud of this plant. I really love it. It was 100% the best purchase I've ever made for the garden, and yeah, really, you can see it's the first thing I see from the window in the house, and also it's made little baby bananas. So another job for winter is I'm going to sort of dig this baby up and replant it in another part of the garden and have more bananas. So another plant for free. And when they're very statement plants like bananas, you know, you don't need many to make a real impact. So the fact that they give you more for free is just fantastic. I'll show you this part of the what's underneath the banana. There were phlox, there were lupins, there were all sorts of perennial plants. We've had quite a problem, it's quite a nice problem, but it's still a problem, of self-seeding poppies popping up everywhere, which are kind of like weeds now. So I need to clear them. But the lupins have done okay, but this is definitely not the right place to put them. So this entire section will be dug up. The plants will be moved and we'll be having a rejig next year. This is another lilac tree. We actually chopped it down to remove it, as you can see here, but it was actually a much bigger job than we thought. And then by the time we came round to actually think about removing the trunk, it had already grown basically a whole new tree. So I'm sort of trimming the new growth so that the new stuff grows how I want it. But I think we probably are going to keep the lilac tree here in the end, because it's sort of more effort to move it than it's really worth. But it should look nice with like a banana lilac. It's just that it needs to be a bit taller so it doesn't crowd out what's behind it, which is my sweet peas. They are going over a lot. I mean, they've got powdery mildew now, which you can tell because they're silver, not green. That's what they're supposed to look like, a nice green colour. Not this powdery stuff. But yeah, they have produced the most beautiful flowers. They smell so nice, they look lovely. The first year of me growing sweet peas, and I'm now never going to be without them. And actually my plan for next year is to make some sort of structure somewhere in this part of the garden, which is much more sunny, and basically have an entire wall of sweet peas somewhere, because yeah, I think that would just be amazing. But this is actually sort of the area that the rose is going to go into. So we'll have the lilac and then we'll have the rose, and the sweet peas will move. But yeah, they are fantastic plant. So yeah, won't be without them now. And it's nice to be able to have grown something new and be so successful this year. especially because I haven't really had time to do much else of anything. So to have at least one new thing and for that to be nice is nice for me. And then moving on to the sort of last section of the garden that I want to show you in this tour, this is my new dahlia bed. Oh, my shadow's in the way. This has been very successful again this year. This is new. I actually got these dahlia tubers from Costco, but the dahlias that they've been producing have just been amazing. I mean, look at that. That is so beautiful. I've cut loads of these already, and of these sort of white ones, they've come out first. But recently, well, as in like the last 2 days, we'll try and not get my shadow in. Oh, this is not going to work. But we've got these pink, these really nice purple ones. And there's so many buds. I mean, look at there's so many buds on them. But what I love the most is the stems. They are really lovely stems. So I'm really pleased about them. And yeah, this bed's coming along nicely. And I'm going to cut all of the flowers and I'm going to try and dry them. So we have lovely dried dahlias in the house over winter. But I need to research how to do that. But yeah, so this is the rest of the garden. It's just looking a bit sorry for itself, a bit worse for wear. The pond area, this entire section here, is overcome with weeds. And looks absolutely terrible. Our neighbours must think we're just not doing anything at all to the garden. To be fair, I haven't done anything to that part of the garden. Basically from here onward back to the house I have. But the further you get down the garden, the less upkeep happens. Oh, and there's the doggy. So yeah, so my plan for this week is to really start tackling this area here, because it just is getting out of control. And I don't want the ceanothus to die because it's being overrun with brambles at the minute. So yeah, I want to keep that for make sure that's all healthy for next year. But yeah, I've trimmed the hedge here, but I need to trim the rest of the hedge. And yeah, we need to do something about this great big blooming holly tree, which I don't like at all. But yeah, the garden is okay this year. I think I need to give myself a bit of slack because obviously I had a baby. But yeah, next year I'll be getting back onto the gardening bandwagon much more, adding more borders, doing more landscaping. But it is what it is this year. So yeah. So as promised, this is the garden at night. So you have festoon lighting going all the way down. And this is the barbecue area. This is from outside. And now I'm down the side passage. You can see a sneak peek of the barbecue area. Oh, the pretty lights. Oh, I absolutely love it. So thank you so much for watching this garden tour. I plan to do a few more vlogs where I'm gardening and taking you along with me, because there's lots to do. But I'm going to leave you now and enjoy sitting out here in the our barbecue area with all these beautiful lights. And I hope you all have a really lovely evening and a magical weekend. See you in the next one. Bye!